You joined the Klan?
Ku Klux Klan. Years ago, and there was about 32 members. What I did is I spoke to the leader only. If you can befriend the leader, that's important. He owned a war surplus store, and I used to buy a lot of scientific stuff, lenses and optical devices from him. I did different optical devices. So he said, what do you do with that stuff? So I said, well, I have a lab. I said, why don't you come out and I'll show you? And he liked what he saw. He saw things he never saw before. I showed him a lot of things he never knew existed. He said, you're a smart guy. What do you think of the Klan? It's a great idea, but it doesn't go far enough. Then they listen. But if you down it, they don't listen. You understand?
Yeah.
What I did is I took my little girl when she was about 2 years old. I put a cigarette in her mouth, and I used a gun and a mirror at 40 feet. I split the cigarette near her mouth. I cut the cigarette with a razor blade, and I put a hairpin in it, and when she rolled her lips a certain way, the hairpin blew tobacco all over the place when I fired a blank. Understand? So Lou Merlin watched that, and he said, "You the best shot I ever saw." He said, "But I wouldn't do that with my own kid." He said, "You might miss, hurt her." So I said, "No, I feel very confident." That impressed him. And he said in his southern accent, "Will you come on down to Klan meeting and talk to our boys?" I said, "They wouldn't listen to me, Lou." He said, "I'll get them to listen to you, because what you say makes sense." He said, "I want you guys to listen to this Jacque. He got a lot of good ideas." And I spoke to them a little bit. I talked a lot about guns and weapons, because they were interested in that. You know, they didn't know what rifling was, how it spun the bullet, and centrifugal force kept the bullet on course. I showed them a lot of stuff, and it's scratching their heads, you know. A lot of them are very uneducated people who don't know nothing about technology, except guns, automobiles and motors, electric motors. They knew that, but they didn't know enough about society, anthropology, human behavior. So I began to fill them in. I said to Lou, "How is it that you can look at a person," this is what he did, "and tell us all about him," and he never knew the guy. He could look at a person, that guy doesn't think, this guy is lazy, just by looking at him. I said, "Lou, will you teach us how to do that?" He said, "Well, I don't think I can teach you anything." I said, "Well, if you can do that, tell me how it's done. Come on down to the next Klan meeting, and I'll work on how you can tell what people are like without knowing them." I brought my own equipment down, and I projected an image on the screen of a guy with a white mustache and gray hair, good-looking guy. And I said, "Lou, tell us all you can about him." And Lou said, "Tell you one thing, he's a war veteran. He's a good American and a good Christian." He was very white. He looked respectable, yeah. And Lou was projecting his own values. And when he got through, I said, "Lou, is there anything else you can add to it?" He said, "No, that pretty much sums it up." So then I pulled the bottom of the picture out, which I got in the post office. So wanted by the FBI for subversive activity against the United States. And the 30 members of the Klan were laughing at Lou for the first time. When he used to speak, he just said anything, and the others, not knowing anything, shook their head. This is the first time what he said didn't make sense, so his group started to laugh at him. So I said to the guys, "Shut your mouth, because Lou knows more about people than we do." I had to defend him till the next film. In the old days, I wasn't smart enough to do that. I would agree with those that laughed. It didn't work that way. So I learned to say, "We'll try another thing." The next film is a record of a man talking in an Oxford accent about aviation. He says, "I see a skinny Englishman with a bald head and eyeglasses." He's projecting his own values. 10 minutes later, the image comes on. It's a black guy raised in England. "It's a goddamn nigger talking like an Englishman." This is Lou's reaction, not my words. And I said, "Lou, that guy was raised in a different environment. If you took a black man and raised him in France, he'd speak like a Frenchman if he was a baby. If you raised him in Germany, he'd speak with a German accent. In Italy, you talk with your hands. Mannaggia d'americano. See, you say, come on, eat, there's good food. That's not you, that's the environment impinging upon you. If I took your son, Lou, and brought him up by a bigger family, your baby, he said, Dad's right, you're right, just like a Negro. Do you understand that, Lou? He said, you mean to say niggers act like niggers because they're brought up in the nigger environment? I showed them French movies of blacks brought up in France. In Sweden they speak Swedish. They don't speak like a black man. And they don't all jazz. That's in America. You know, all blacks are different. They don't all like watermelon, you know, all the stuff we project out there. You know, Irishmen are drunkards. They all believe that. They say, no, they're raised in an environment where have a drink. It's normal. Sometimes people are not raised in that environment. You know, depends on your experiences. Your decision making is shaped by experience. Can you understand that?
Yeah.
Well, I got that across with The Immaculate Pig. That was a major film. It was done like 60 years ago. So when he walked out, it scratched his back. Pigs like that. So he turned around and he walked up and back. Can you understand that? Okay. Then I changed the bamboo to wire later. So when he went under and touched the wires, it turned on the water faucet. Do you understand? He'd be walking back 8 times, the water shower was coming down. And I put a little jacket on the pig called the Immaculate Pig. It was white, and it said the Immaculate Pig. So he got up, changed his bed sheet, took a shower, went in the room, picked all the dirty grain, put it in the basket, and I'd run that film at Klan making after other films. And they say, I raised me a lot of pigs, Jacque. I ain't never seen no pig that smart. How come that pig's that smart? That's because I raised it in a different environment. They say, I don't get that. And I'd show them how you train animals to do things. I explained how I did it, and what learning was and all that. Well, the Immaculate Pig, we have to make a lot of films like that. So now we make other films. We're making films trying to help people understand these things. They invent words. They say, this man's a racist. That means you were brought up that way. They don't understand that environment makes you that way. If you hate Polacks or Jews or Swedes, it means you were brought up in an environment where it says the Jews control all the money and they take it away from the Gentiles. Environment shapes values, facial expressions. If you were brought up in the deep South, you speak with a Southern accent. And if all you hear is the damn niggers are lazy, they don't do it, if that's all you hear, that's what you reflect. So you might say, I'm going to give me a nigger and I'm going to kick his ass. Is that you or a reflection of your culture? Think about it. So in New York, I asked a question, what are the most undeveloped people in the area? I got one consensus. They said the Arabs that live in Atlantic Avenue. I said, what makes you think they're backward? That group still believes the earth is flat. Not all Arabs, the group they would talk about. So I called up the lead Arab. He said, want to know whether I was an Arab? And I said, yes, I'm not an Arab. But that's to gain entry. So I said, where your father he born? I said, Lebanon. He said, very good, come and saw me. He's come and see me. So when I came to see him, he said to me, you believe the world's round? I said, yes. He went, in his language, that means it can't be round. Then he pointed to his head. He says, if the world he round, man fall me down. All the water he fall me down. There'd be no ocean, nothing. Kept pointing to his head, and how smart he was. So I said, boy, I've got to get to this guy if I wish to change the world. So I gave him a balloon, which I brought with me, and I rubbed it with fur. I put cornflakes in his hand and told him to hold his hand away from the balloon. You know what happened? You generate static electricity, and then suck the cornflakes up to the balloon. All the cornflakes go up to the balloon. And the joy of the paper. He said, world immaculate? I said, yeah. And he explained that to all the other Arabs. In an hour and a half, they accepted the fact that the earth was round. But if you use language, scientific, centrifugal force, geomagnetic fields. They don't know what the heck they're talking about. They say Arabs live in the past. Well, that's because their environment is in the past. You have to learn different people's values and speak in their terms, not your terms. When I first walked over to Klan people, so why are you beating up the black guy? They just said a nigger lover from the north. They did not hear that, nor could they hear that. Do you understand? So if you use logic, it doesn't work. If you speak ahead of the terms of people, they don't know what you're talking about. We believe in training people as problem solvers so we can bridge the difference between nations. Well, you got military people on television talking about the war, always military people from the Pentagon, politicians that are pro-war. You don't get any views from social scientists, sociologists.
The stupidity of a nuclear arms race, the development of weapons, trying to solve your problems politically by electing this political party or that political party.
It's not politicians that can solve problems. They don't know how to solve problems. Even if they were sincere, they don't know how to solve problems because they're not trained to do so. The world you live in is very sick. We are not civilized yet. As long as there's war machines, war movies, cannons in front of high schools, bombers, military aircraft in front of universities, this is not civilized. Man is the dumbest animal. Pollutes the ocean, the air, the rivers, the atmosphere, and people. Man, they put himself on a pedestal, say we're the highest form of life. That's an ego trip. They're not. We're not civilized yet. As long as you have prisons, police, armies, navies, we are not civilized.